chilling whisper. They said the house was cursed. For generations, the townspeople spoke in hushed tones about the eerie mansion that stood at the edge of the forest. It was a place shrouded in mystery and fear, a place where the brave dared not tread. The stories of its haunted past were passed down from one generation to the next, each tale more terrifying than the last. No one dared enter until now. The house had been abandoned for decades, its windows boarded up, its doors locked tight. But curiosity got the better of a group of friends who had heard the legends and wanted to experience the thrill for themselves. They were determined to uncover the secrets that lay within its walls. On a chilly autumn evening, armed with flashlights and bravado, they pushed open the creaking door. The air was thick with anticipation as they stepped inside, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls. The floorboards groaned under their weight, and the sound of their breathing seemed unnaturally loud in the stillness of the house. Dust covered the interior as shadows danced in the flickering light. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling like ghostly drapes, and the furniture was draped in sheets, as if the house itself was trying to hide its secrets. The friends moved cautiously, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air reeked of decay. The smell was almost overpowering, a mix of mold, rot, and something else, something that made their skin crawl. It was as if the house was alive, breathing its foul breath down their necks. They pressed on, their nerves on edge, every creak and groan of the house making them jump. Deeper inside, strange symbols adorned the walls. They were unlike anything the friends had ever seen, intricate designs that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Some of the symbols were faded, almost invisible, while others were fresh, as if they had been drawn recently. The friends exchanged uneasy glances, wondering what kind of rituals had taken place in this house. An unnatural silence enveloped them. It was the kind of silence that pressed down on you, making it hard to breathe. The friends could hear their own hearts beating, the sound loud in their ears. They felt as if they were being watched, as if unseen eyes were following their every move. Suddenly, Jake felt a cold breath on his neck. He turned. Nothing. His friends laughed, thinking it was a joke, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. He tried to laugh it off, but the fear in his eyes was unmistakable. His friends laughed, thinking it was a joke. They tried to lighten the mood, making jokes and teasing each other, but the tension was palpable. They knew they were not alone in the house, but they didn't want to admit it. They pressed on, determined to explore every corner of the mansion. In the attic, a cracked, dusty mirror reflected not just their faces, but dark figures behind them. The friends froze, their eyes wide with fear. They turned to look behind them, but there was nothing there. The mirror seemed to be playing tricks on them, showing them things that couldn't possibly be real. Dismissing it as a trick, they took a group photo. They huddled together, trying to smile for the camera, but their smiles were strained. The flash went off, and for a moment the room was plunged into darkness. When the light returned, they saw something that made their blood run cold. The flash went off, plunging the room into darkness. In that brief moment, they saw faces in the mirror that didn't belong to them. Faces twisted in agony, eyes filled with malice. The friends backed away from the mirror, their hearts pounding in their chests. Flashlights failed. Whispers grew louder, in a language they couldn't understand. The whispers seemed to come from all around them, echoing off the walls. The friends huddled together, their flashlights flickering and dying one by one. They were plunged into darkness, the whispers growing louder and more insistent. Desperate, they stumbled down the stairs. They could barely see where they were going, their flashlights providing only the faintest of glows. They tripped and stumbled, their fear driving them forward. The whispers followed them, growing louder and more frantic with each step. The house shifted around them, leading them in circles. Each door was locked. Whispers turned frantic. The friends tried door after door, but each one was locked tight. The house seemed to be toying with them, leading them in circles, trapping them in its dark embrace. The whispers grew louder, more urgent, as if the house itself was trying to communicate with them. Jake screamed as something grabbed his ankle. He looked down and saw a hand, pale and cold, gripping his leg. He kicked and struggled, but the hand held tight. His friends tried to help, but they were too scared to get close. Jake's screams echoed through the house, mingling with the whispers. Panic surged. They pushed through a hidden door into a room of sinister dolls. The door slammed shut. The dolls were arranged in a circle, their glassy eyes staring at the friends. Some of the dolls were old and worn, their faces cracked and faded. Others were new, their faces painted with bright, cheerful smiles that seemed out of place in the dark, eerie room. Whispers became screams, walls closed in. The friends could feel the walls pressing in on them, the room growing smaller and smaller. The dolls seemed to come to life, their eyes following the friends as they moved. The whispers turned to screams, filling the room with a cacophony of sound. Jake shouted to run, but it was too late. The friends tried to escape, but the door was locked. They pounded on the walls, their screams joining the chorus of voices that filled the room. They could feel the house closing in on them, trapping them in its dark embrace. Hands dragged them into the shadows. The friends were pulled into the darkness, their screams echoing through the house. They could feel cold hands gripping their arms and legs, pulling them into the shadows. They struggled and fought, but it was no use. The house had claimed them. By dawn, the house was silent. The sun rose, casting a pale light over the mansion. The house stood silent and still, as if nothing had happened. The friends were gone, their screams silenced. The house had returned to its eerie, quiet state, waiting for its next victims. Townspeople found only abandoned belongings. They searched the house, but there was no sign of the friends. Their belongings were scattered throughout the house, but the friends themselves were nowhere to be found. The townspeople whispered among themselves, wondering what had happened to the brave souls who had dared to enter the haunted house. Months later, a new group approached. They had heard the stories, but they were determined to uncover the truth for themselves. They stood at the edge of the forest, looking up at the mansion with a mix of fear and excitement. They were ready to face whatever horrors lay within its walls. As they opened the door, a chilling breeze swept through. The whispers began again. The new group stepped inside, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The door creaked shut behind them, and the house seemed to come alive. The whispers started, soft at first, then growing louder. The new group pressed on, unaware of the fate that awaited them. The haunted house had claimed its next victims, and the cycle of terror would continue.